I would like to thank each of you for being examples to my wonderful uncle, Paul Bachman. As all of you know, Paul was an extraordinary man. On Friday, Paul would have turned 67.
67.
Ask the kids about that later.
Wow.
The cancer that took Paul from us was a very cruel disease, but Paul managed through it with courage, grit, and grace. My cousin April French and I will now share memories from family members, which we hope you'll enjoy.
When Paul was born, our grandma Lynn was still in the hospital, and great-grandma Charlotte had come to Laramie to take care of his older sisters. Jean overheard Grandma Mick and Gigi Charlotte talking about Paul's middle name. That night in bed, she whispered to Jan, "Do you know what they're naming our brother? Paul Idiot." Jan said, "They wouldn't do that." The next morning, Jan marched out to the kitchen and asked her dad, "Are you naming our brother Paul Idiot?" Jan remembers that Grandpa Mick had just taken a drink of coffee, and he spit it clear across the table in laughter and assured her that no, that would not be her brother's name. As it turns out, Mick and Lynn had different opinions about what Paul's middle name should be. Mick wanted his middle name to be Edward, after Lynn's grandfather, Edward Johnson, who had died in 1983 and who Mick had known and loved. Lynn said that they should name Paul after Mick's dad's full name, Paul Elliott Botkin. But after Jan asked that question, Mick drove to the hospital, walked into Lynn's room and said, "We're naming him Paul Edward."
As everyone in this room knows, Paul was far from an idiot. He was a person of deep integrity who would lend a hand to anyone in need at the drop of a hat. He was also a person who loved people and loved life with a great sense of humor. Our stories today are drawn from our family's experiences of Paul's helpfulness, integrity, and humor. We're sure that each of you in this room have your own stories to share, and we hope you do so at your tables during our lunch together after the service. My mom, Julie, heard a story from Paul for the first time this summer. When Paul was a young man, soon after high school, he was working at a local trade business, and his employer was trying to assign him jobs for which he was not yet certified.